Hey fellow animators, I'm Cherny. I'm currently working on some dinosaurs and recently finished this T-Rex rig. In this video we will go through the whole rig bone by bone and do a review of it together. I believe that you can learn a lot by seeing other completed rigs. I don't mean the controllers and helpers for animators, you can notice that I don't even use any. I mean mainly the positioning of the bones, number of bones and stuff like that. It's a commercial work, so I cannot share this model with you in any form, but I can at least show you what I did. It's a quite high poly model and was kind of pain to skin, but this video will be only about the rig. Okay, so all of you who watch this channel, but even those who don't, should know that when doing any rig, you always have to focus on placement of pivot points of the bones, not how the bone looks, what shape it has or how big it is. The main focus is always the pivot, because it sets the point of rotation for the bone. So let's go through the whole rig, bone by bone. Pelvis and chest are both pretty standard, not much to say about those. Maybe just that the chest has a pivot point in the back, same as those other spine bones have. By default, cat creates chest bone with a pivot in the middle. I moved it to the back to match other spine bones. How to do it I have shown several times in my videos already. The link for one of those is up here. But it's basically by using an edit poly modifier. I have used 2 bones for the spine. No need to overdo it with 5 bones or whatever crazy number like that. 2 should be plenty enough. The tail is also very simple. Created as a cat tail bone chain with 7 bones. The thing worth mentioning is that the first bone is quite far back inside the model, close to the pelvis, even touching the leg a bit. The reason for it is that I want also this part of the pelvis to bend with the tail to create a nice blend and a feeling of an organic creature. If you would put the bone further out, like here for example, this part would look really stiff and unnatural, because there would be no bone to move it. That's why you should place the bones further inside the model. A lot of beginners don't do it properly. You can see with this bone placement, the tail bends quite nicely. The other thing about the tail is that each bone is a bit shorter than the previous one. It's very subtle here. I could probably do it even more obvious, but never mind now. And the reason for it is that these first bones are where the tail is the thickest, so it would bend the least. While on the other hand, the tip of the tail should be more agile, and the shorter bones make that possible by default. The legs have 2 bones and the third one is ankle. 2 bones and ankle. The ankle has 4 fingers. 4th is this little one back here. And again, the same thing I was talking about with tail. The first bone of the finger is deep inside the foot. And that's true for all the fingers. Now when you animate them, you can see that the finger mesh creates this nice bend. Other than that, there's nothing special about the legs. This last finger bone is a bit longer just because it has claw as well, but that's just a visual thing anyway, it doesn't affect the rig. The back finger has only 2 bones for obvious reasons, it probably won't even move most of the time. Maybe a last thing to mention here is that the first leg bone is again a bit further inside the model, closer to the pelvis, basically like it would be connected to it. Don't put it too far outside, it has to start inside the model. Arms. With arms, the one interesting thing is that a lot of people would start it here, with this bone, which is actually fine and correct. But what people often don't do is this collarbone here, which starts somewhere around the chest from the inside of the model and connects the arm. And the reason for that is that without it, the arm would be only able to do this movement. But what we also need to have is this movement, which the collarbone provides. And this movement is important because the real dinosaur would be able to do it as well. So don't forget about the collarbone. Use it. Other than that, the arm is just a standard limb. 2 bones and a palm with 2 fingers done exactly the same way as the legs have. Okay, so now the head. As I have said several times already in my previous videos, I don't usually create the head with the spine bone chain, like it's supposed to be by default. I use tail bone chain for it. The tail has 2 bones in this case, which are these 2 neck bones. And for the last neck bone, I added additional bone with this add bone button, and that's the head bone here. The reason for creating a head this way is the flexibility it offers me when animating. It's a bit harder to explain without showing the examples, but I will leave that for another video. All you need to know is that with this option you will get a typical forward kinematics neck, so you are able to animate each bone separately. So the head bone is connected to the neck at the same spot where the neck ends. It doesn't have to be, but I usually do it that way. What is important is the pivot point of the head bone, because that is the point around which the head will rotate. Although the deformations on the model might not look great where the head is being rotated, you must remember that most of the time the neck will rotate with it as well. So a movement like this will probably never happen, and it's quite extreme. If you need to do it for some reason, you can always move the head a bit to negate the ugly deformation. So how this particular bend looks is not that important. But what is important is the pivot point, as I have said several times. And in this case it should probably be able to rotate up as much as it can down. So I have placed the pivot to the middle of the mesh. Jaw is easy. Again, the only thing is the pivot. For most animals, creatures and also humans, the general rule is that the point of rotation for jaw is somewhere around the ear, usually somewhere underneath it. And when the pivot is placed correctly, you can see that the jaw will close naturally. If the pivot would be somewhere here in the middle, what some people do, it would of course deform only the front part and the result would never look good, no matter how hard you would try to fix it with skin. The tongue is just 4 sequential bones with the first linked to the head. Nothing interesting. For eyes, I usually do 3 bones for each one. The first, main one, affects the eyeball with 100% and several vertices around it with little weight. You can see they move a little bit with the eye as well. The other 2 bones are eyelids, which have edges around the eye weighted to them. And of course, all of these 3 bones have pivots in the same place, which is exactly the middle of the eyeball mesh, because everything with the eye rotates around this point of rotation. The nose in this case has exactly the same principle as the eyes. It's for if you would like to animate some sniffing or something like that. You can always look for these parts on the model that you might want to have animated and rig them as well. And the last remaining thing are these purple bones here. The purpose of those is to mitigate some bad looking deformations for certain poses. Because of how thick is the part around pelvis and spine, the bottom vertices would not have a suitable bone to be weighted to. Because they shouldn't be weighted to pelvis and neither the legs. Basically, these bones aren't for creating moving parts, but for dealing with certain deformations that might be a problem while you animate. So all of these bones are made with the add bone button, and these 2 ones are children of the pelvis. While these 3 ones are each linked to their spine bones respectively. So when the chest is being bent, these bones follow the spine and chest, and you can also still animate them separately if you need to. And that's all there is to it to this rig. It's not hard to do a rig like this at all. Everything is just a series of little steps that repeat all the time. The main thing to always think about are the pivots and also not to overdo it with the amount of bones. You generally want to have as few as possible without losing the detail you want to achieve. And for today that's all. I am Miloš Černý and thank you for watching.